So if you were a person who was really fascinated with the idea of romance and wanted to learn about love and romance and all of that stuff, do you think that going to a host club would be a good idea? Generally speaking, I think that a lot of people would say, no bueno. That's probably not the type of place you want to go to, because if you think about what they're doing, they're not going to teach you anything valuable. And most of the time I would have actually understood that ideology, because that simply is what those places are. Until I watched Ouran High School Host Club.
Because I'm still waiting for you to click that like button, and to subscribe, and the post notification button.
Now, the thing about a host club, now I'm just gonna keep it a buck with you. I have no experience about like host clubs. I do not go to those places. I don't even know if they exist in South Africa. But generally speaking, they're places in which basically people entertain you. Like they act as if they're interested in you. They, I don't know, do party tricks maybe. But generally, it's a bad place if you want to learn about something real, because ultimately, it's a place filled with a lot of fake things. Within this anime, the thing that it does is kind of switch that environment around and utilize it to tell the story that it wants to tell. But the first thing that it does, it actually gives us a different perspective that we're not used to. Well, biasly not used to. Because within the story, it covers a bunch of dudes. Now, these dudes are within the host club and they have different personalities. They're different dudes. There's like twins. Side note, the twins are like the most weirdest dudes I've ever seen in my life.
You have to be more careful. From now on, keep your eyes on me, okay?
Hey yo, what the?
Essentially, you have these characters who are of different personalities, different aesthetics, and as such, they're pleasing to women in a sense that if you want a different type of dude, or if you're into this type of dude, you can pick that type of dude, essentially. Until one day, a individual who looks like a dude who actually happens to be a girl, then kind of just joins the club because some things happen. Long story. Essentially, we just go on this journey of following what happens on the day-to-day in terms of a host club, and kind of what goes into it. Now, essentially speaking, this should be a really bad environment, because if you think about it, they're hustling people. That's essentially what they do. And the fun part that makes it comedic in terms of the anime is actually seeing these dudes who present themselves as being really suave and being really loving and everything that person would want, switching up or just really analyzing the fact that they just hustled someone, which makes it really dark, but also really comedic at the same time, which kind of makes it the anime that it is. But the thing that this anime does at the beginning, like I said, that's a little different, is that as you've noted, I've been talking about dudes who are kind of wanted by women. Now, generally speaking, the idea of people basically paying for someone to be with them or fake a connection is associated with dudes, you know? Generally speaking, the world perceives dudes to be so desperate enough to actually be willing to do that. The idea of a woman wanting to do that is actually seen as weird. You couldn't fathom it. Now, to kind of get a little bit vulgar, but not really, it's kind of like the whole thing of like, dudes are so desperate in a sense that they will literally overlook so many things to just like do anything with a woman. Generally, that ideology doesn't apply to women. It's kind of like, well, they kind of have choices or they can be picky. This anime kind of breaks that down. You have a bunch of women doing something that for dudes would be really embarrassing. The fact that they leave wherever they're coming from to go to a place where they will pay someone to act as if they have interest in them, or basically be invested in their lives, or act as if they have a bond, is sad. Because if you think about it, you're paying for someone to have some sort of interest in you. And generally speaking, people don't tend to associate this with women. They think that women always have some sort of option. How could she be paying to go hang out with a dude so a dude can act like he cares about her? And generally speaking, this also comes from like a spiteful place from dudes who are like, I would love her and care for her. Why does she have to pay for it? But generally, that's kind of like how it is. And this anime takes full advantage of it, because it's kind of allowing us to feel a relatability in terms of humans, because generally something is associated with being a dude, that desperation of wanting to be with someone. And that is why there's anime like Rent a Girlfriend and stuff like that. This anime lets you know that no, everyone goes through this phase where they're so desperate for love or attention, or this desire to feel wanted or to feel loved, that they will go to places like this. And as such, you have to take note of the fact that these host clubs that have dudes exist for a reason. And as such, there's sort of this weird unity about this anime, that a lot of people, instead of just dudes, can go to these places looking for something. That is something about this anime that really hits you, because at the beginning, like I said, it's about hustling in a sense. These dudes are taking advantage of these people, and it's kind of funny because you see behind the curtain. But the thing about this anime that's a little bit more different is that that's where it gets you. It's actually really switching up the whole idea of host clubs. People who go to host clubs are looking for something. There's something missing. They want something from a romantic sort of fashion or a romantic connection or love that they feel like they can't get. And if you think about it, this would be the perfect environment in terms of a host club to see those things, but also to learn about them. Because if you think about it, to be driven to such an environment, you really have to be desperate in a sense to want that. And as such, you're seeing a level of vulnerability and honesty and maybe a bit of shame into how much a human wants that sort of connection or that feeling. And as such, if you get the correct hosts, they're going to teach you valuable lessons. And that's what the anime does. These dudes are not using their suave and beautiful sort of appearances for evil, which they should be. They're using it for good. Because as you can understand, sometimes people head into those places looking for something. They kind of using these individuals to fill in that gap, to kind of entertain themselves, whether through the vice of lust or just the sort of bond in a sense. They're missing something. And this anime has this ability of trying to really fill in that hole. It's not that type of joke, but trying to just fill in that gap that they're kind of feeling and help them to kind of realize where they made mistakes or kind of help them realize what brought them to such a place. Because generally speaking, you don't really want to be in a host bar, because if you think about why you went there, it's probably not the best of reasons. This anime becomes one of the most educational romance anime that you will find because of its ability to teach people about so many different things in terms of romance that could drive people to go to such an environment. It's kind of weirdly using the fact that because you're in such a messy place like a host club, this is a great opportunity to learn. High-key, it kind of feels like those lessons where like they take children or people to like prison and then they show you like this is why you don't really want to be here. And as such, this anime is able to really switch up that whole perception of what a host club is and turns it into this really educational place where every single episode you're laughing, you're having fun, but it has these moments of reminding you why people come to these types of places. And as such, you're learning from so many different perspectives. I remember thinking about this when I was watching the anime, that the creator must either be like a host club fiend where she's just constantly just going there and watching people because of her ability to really analyze how people go through certain things in terms of romantic pitfalls and how they feel and the desperation and some of the really powerful emotions that can be in a place like that, which is really fantastic. But then they decided, I'm just gonna make this like a warm, funny sort of comedic anime. But the fact that they're hiding their genius through some of the comedy is like the best part of this anime. And by the end of this anime, which was only one season, I was able to really reflect and think about something really amazing. This is a romance anime that when I really thought about it, it hasn't been replicated, and I don't know if it ever will be replicated, in which something is able to be really comedic, is able to also be really romantic, but also be extremely educational without it feeling as if it's hitting you over the head with messages and knowledge the entire time. Instead, it just felt like a really awesome anime with really funny moments and really cool moments, but by the end of it, somehow you're learning something. And when you think about sometimes the direction that certain anime have gone on in terms of nowadays, it's really difficult for an educational anime to hit home. Instead, this anime is able to relate to many issues that happened during its time, this time, and maybe even the future as well, which is pretty impressive because I think it came out in 2006. The fact that this anime has this feeling of really being something warm to the person who watches it. You're able to learn about something if you wanted to learn about romance. You're able to laugh about the relatability of certain issues that come with romance or love, but also you're able to learn something as a human being and take this with you or give it to someone else or apply it in many different aspects. Is something of a rarity. And I think that if you think about how amazing this anime is, and for those who love it, which is kind of funny because generally it's associated with women watching the show, but generally speaking, this is such a gem for everybody. And I think the point of it being the way that it is and it looking the way it is was there for a reason. It was there to really be able to relate to everybody. But the problem is sometimes when you look at it as a dude, you're like, I don't know if I really want to watch this type of thing. But then when you start to watch it, you realize that, oh, like I'm able to relate with others, but also the fact that it is using women in this situation instead of dudes being the desperate ones is something that allows you to understand that this is a human experience and it's not there to shame you, it's not there to embarrass you. It's this welcoming place. It's kind of almost weirdly like the host club. It's a place that is welcoming to everyone who comes there, and hopefully by the end of it, you come in broken and hopefully you come out a bit more fixed. And if not, it's okay. This is something that you don't get much in terms of romance anime, which is probably why this anime is as special and as highlighted by those who watch it as it is.